And it was bad. And
Didn't they time you?
All right, go ahead.
They did have the timing, but I was way past. I was in La La Land. I was going.
No, I find that hard to believe.
I shut up. I said that I never lived that down in my 14 years. So, I am Keith Richard Deschler. I am running for U.S. Congress in the 1st Congressional District, which, of course, the occupant of that seat is Paul Ryan, the guy who is the superstar of the Republican Party and has the largest war chest of any congressional candidate of either party in America. And I don't fit any of that. I'm a libertarian. I believe in limited government and more personal freedom and personal responsibility. And that pretty much sums up the libertarian philosophy in a nutshell. It's less government and more freedom. And I don't see that coming out of Paul Ryan or his Democratic opponent, Rob Zurbin. I see them both as guys who believe that government has a major role to play in how you live your life, how you take care of your family, and how you run your business. And I really don't see either one of them offering the kind of common sense solutions that are really going to get to the problems that we face right now. Paul Ryan talks about his roadmap to prosperity, his budget that is going to pay down the debt and reduce the deficit and get us toward a balanced budget, but he's going to take 28 years to do that. And I just think that is totally unacceptable. I believe, as our presidential candidate Gary Johnson has said over and over again, we need to balance the budget now. We need to submit a balanced budget with substantially reduced spending levels, and which would basically bring us back to about spending, I'd say, about the midpoint of the George Bush presidency, which would be around $2.2 billion from 3.8. I mean, that's still a lot of money, folks. And we still would have a lot of social services being provided. We still would have a substantial social safety net with Social Security and Medicare and some other programs to help those most in need.
Keith, you said 3.2 billion. Was that trillion?
It was 3.2 trillion.
Trillion.
2.2
trillion. In the total budget,
yes. 2.2 trillion.
Right.
And basically that is my main issue.
That's a lot of spending still.
It still is a lot of spending. We're not going to get to the kind of limited constitutional government that many of us are longing for overnight. It's going to take a lot, especially with an economy that is as depressed as ours is, and also with as many people who are reliant upon government subsidies for a good chunk of their income. That's something you just can't eliminate that stuff overnight, but you have to begin the process of working toward getting the younger generations to where they can build up their savings and get a tax code or a system of raising revenues that will permit people to do that.
Okay, how would you reform the entitlement system? We have a government pushing now for more and more people going on food stamps instead of less. How do we reform this so we get people be basically on their own and stop them from being dependent?
I think what you have to do is you have to start moving the economy again. I think the best social program ultimately is a job, even having a full-paying job. And when you have so many of us, myself included, who have been dealing with underemployment, not just unemployment so much, but underemployment. You're not working as many hours. You know that the unemployment compensation is not going to cover totally the amount of wages you've lost. I think that what has to happen is that we have to balance the budget first. We have to get rid of a lot of the wasteful spending that's out there, whole departments that have to be eliminated. If we can take a lot of the waste, fraud, and mismanagement that are caused by just having the federal government have so much specific mandates on states, and you give the states back a good chunk of that money in block grants and have them basically run those programs themselves and turn those programs like Medicare and Medicaid into vouchers, that people would take the voucher and buy their own health insurance, for example, and then whatever they save on it, you know, from having to price things out like we do here in this restaurant, you know, or any place else, then then we can bring costs down.
Keith, I think that if you're really going to accomplish that, you're going to have to get rid of the safety nets, and it's this get to work or starve type of thing, or you can go out and find friends that are going to give to you, but have these government safety nets around there doesn't get you where you want to go. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's the goal, but I think what we do too is you begin taking a lot less out of people's paychecks in the first place. And I'm one who believes that we should eliminate the federal income tax and the whole federal tax system entirely, with a system of withholding money from the money supply. Let's say our gross domestic product is $15 trillion. We take, let's say, about 17% of that money we could take out, which would be about 2.5 trillion, which is what economist Walter Williams, many of us know him, he's a libertarian economist, he says it's about what we're getting in federal revenues now from everything, FICA taxes, income tax, corporate tax, etc. And we take that out of the money supply, and then we basically, there's no need for income tax forms, no need for any withholding, Social Security withholding, any of that stuff, corporate taxes, excise taxes, gas taxes, and people would have their whole paycheck, at least as far as federal taxes go. And even the states then would be encouraged to get rid of their income taxes and perhaps replace them with some sort of a consumption tax. But yet your whole paycheck would be yours. And with that money that you're not paying out in taxes, you could end up having more money to spend on the needs you have to take care of. And I think that's a good chunk of it right there. Making work pay much more without all these taxes, and then people have more money.
All right, thanks, Keith.